I had the pleasure of meeting Brice a few years ago, where I attended one of his men's circles. And to this day, it was one of the most profound and amazing things I have experienced, and part of the inspiration of even doing this podcast. In this episode, we discuss many things about masculinity and the importance of men's work and communities. So please give it up for my friend, Brice.
Let me fix my shirt so I look nice and the way I want to. Yeah, awesome.
It's weird. It's like you're going into a job interview sometimes.
Yeah, I feel whenever I do whatever, if it's a call or if it's like an event or anything like that, I like to my body, my clothes, and the
Mm,
way everything is tuned in. So there's good attention to details. So I'm feeling confident with how I am and how I look, and the rest can flow basically.
yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Integrity.
Yes, integrity. Thank you.
So how have you been, brother?
I'm not gonna lie, it's been challenging
Mm.
a couple of 4 or 5 weeks, I'd say. Yeah, I was almost hesitant to tell you, hey, let's postpone that call, but I'm like, hey, I'm gonna show up the way I am because that's how I want people, and I want you to see me like who I am, like I'm a man, and sometimes I radiate, and sometimes I'm a fucking mess, and I'm here for everything.
I love that.
Yeah,
First off, I feel for you.
thank
Whatever
you.
you're going through, brother, I feel for you and I'm sending my love
Thank you.
and anything you need.
Res-
I'm grateful that you decided to show up anyway. And that is one of the reasons actually why I admire you
mm,
and why when I did have the privilege to attend your group, the vulnerability
mm,
and like you said, you honored the mess as well as like I just loved that. And
mm.
that's one of the reasons why I wanted to feature you on this.
Yeah,
So I'm glad that you're giving other men who would watch this permission. And I feel that's something that's very awesome. So thank you for doing this.
of course. Thank you for receiving that and providing the space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As I was tuning into the space and connecting with you and my story as well, I feel if you were to ask me when my journey started, it started very simple. It started like 10 years ago when I had met my partner. We were together for 6 months and I was deeply in love with her. And she basically told me, man, you gotta open up or I'm gonna leave.
Mm,
And when I received that, I was like, what does she mean? No? What does opening up mean for her? Like, I felt like I was being authentic and everything was aligned with myself. And then it really started the journey to really feeling my emotions and tuning into, okay, what is going on with me in that specific situation or in that interaction with that person. So, yeah, I would say that was like a big first step into stepping in from being a boy to being a man. A lot of my teachers and a lot of men in men's work are talking about the lack of those rites of initiation and how a woman's body, I mean, we go through transformation, but women are being initiated by their own body and they usually have support from their mothers or from their aunt, or there's like a support structure around having your first moon and being supported in that and being celebrated in having this. And I don't know about you, and then you can share your experience as well as growing up as a teenager, but I mean, I never felt like I never had any type of initiation. And I mean, I don't consider watching porn an initiation in any sense, right? It's almost the opposite, and
yeah.
I can elaborate on that. But yeah, so I would say that coming back to my story, this was really like I consider the start of my initiation, or my partner giving me basically a kick in my butt, and saying like, wake up, like I need a man, I don't need a boy. and me realizing, oh, she's my partner, not my mother, you know? So yeah, that was the start. And then, yeah, about 3 years ago, again, my partner was like, hey, you know, I heard this men's retreat. You should maybe go. It's in Portugal. I know the woman from the man who's leading it. And she forwarded me that email like five times probably. And I was like, at the fifth time, I was like, fuck, this is really pissing me off right now. So it's pissing me off so much, I'm gonna sign up, you know? And man, that was the freaking beginning of my journey. So yeah, shout out to Miguel. He's a great facilitator in Portugal. He runs men initiation, and thanks to that, I'm here in front of my camera speaking to you, and I've been leading men into their own transformation. So yeah.
I gotta say, I love everything you just said. Like I'm grinning ear to ear because it's very truthful. Like it resonates completely. And I also want to say is I've had the privilege, for those at home listening, I've had the privilege to be in one of Brice's groups. I haven't been in a lot myself, but I've had the privilege to be in one of your groups, and it was very eye-opening and heart-opening too. It's stuff I've known before, but I was like, this is awesome in all the ways, like beautiful, harsh, sad. Like, whoa, it was very wowing. And to this day, there's so much I took with me from that one evening. One of the biggest ones that I will say is like, you never know what a man is going through. You can have all these judgments, you can have all these assumptions, but until you hear the tangle that he has to undo and express, it's not what you think. We're thought to be such simple creatures compared to our female counterparts, but we're not. And it's because, like you said, we hadn't had the initiation in many ways, and especially in dealing with our emotions and dealing with our lives. And in a lot of our situations, we are the providers and we lock it down and we push it in a way that's manageable, but it doesn't make it any less. And that's very scary to the average man because there's a lot of denial to it too, that he doesn't even want to deny, let alone other people.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it, I meant. He doesn't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I think you touched a very good point here, and this is why I really honor men like you or men who are
Huge.
joining my bi-monthly event for the first time. And I mean, they are stepping into a space where they have no shit idea what I'm gonna be bringing. They have no idea whatsoever. They just feel the pull, you know. That's usually how men are joining for the first time, and you can share why you joined as well. But it's always like, hey, you know, this morning somebody told me I should go, and I'm glad I came, you know, and I'm grateful and I'm very happy that you had the experience that you had. And I want to say this has nothing to do about me. This is just about you and your
Mm.
capacity to really dive into the space and receive what you needed to receive. And something very important that I'm sharing as well, that it is like nothing is about me. I'm just here to provide the space and to show my heart so you can show yours and have your own experience. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that. And as I was progressing on that journey, obviously there's a lot of ego story that are coming up and like, hey, maybe it's about me, you know, maybe it's about me, and maybe it's about me wanting to be seen. And fuck, I don't want this to be about me be wanting to be seen. And I remember at the beginning, I had those thoughts like, hey, what about these men? Like they show up and they never come back. Like, have I done something wrong? And so it was a very healing and very powerful journey as well for me to just always show up, you know. I had
Hmm.
done that commitment. I'm gonna fucking show up every other Monday, 8 p.m. I'm gonna be there, whether I'm by myself meditating or with 15 other men screaming and crying and experiencing whatever we want. And funny enough, along that journey, I met other men like you that came once, and I asked that man, like, hey, brother, like, you came once, like, can you offer some form of feedback why you never came back? And he said, well, man, that night changed everything for me.
Mm.
Like, it was like so deep, and it's almost like I feel like sometimes it's too much, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you go on a psychedelic journey, you're not dosed properly, and you're being kind of shocked, or you just your nervous system is not ready for what's about to happen. So you get what you are supposed to receive the same way you do that with medicine. I consider
Hmm.
brotherhood a very powerful medicine. So we all get what we should receive at that time. But it was very nice for me to receive, like, okay, everything is fine. And it was reassuring my ego, like, this has nothing to do about me, you know? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe something else that I wanted to bring up, and that I would say that really shifted as well in this journey of men's work, is I went to a retreat from a couple of guys that are doing some pretty amazing work, and they're called 13 Pines. Maybe you heard about them. They're in Austin, Texas, and they run that retreat for their first time, and they shared something which really hit me hard. They said, your partner is not here to hold space for you. And here it was like, man, I mean, I thought my wife is my life partner. I thought she she's supposed to be here to hold space for me the same way as I am for her. And I mean, I have the chance to have a woman who's a child psychiatrist, so she understands the depth of the mind and the maze and all that stuff. So I always assume like it's okay for me. It's okay for me to fully share my shit, and same for her as well. And so receiving that was like really challenging at the beginning. And then I lean in like more towards even more into those containers and being with other men, and like you said, really go deep in the vulnerability. So I could go home just, yeah, just like a freer, like more free from my own stories. And this kind of leads me to my own definition of man's capacity. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept, but just the capacity of like fully staying present and fully receiving certain amount of energy from life, from woman, from your child. And the way I put that in picture for the men in the group is I say like each and every one of us, we have our own bucket. And this
Container.
bucket, yeah, or I like bucket because it's very
Yeah.
easy to understand, and it's very easy to visualize life and the woman as water, and
Mm.
us being there and not moving, not shifting, and really receiving. And I mean, slowly filling up that bucket. See what I mean? And at
Hmm.
some point, when the bucket is full, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that, and I experienced too. Then the buckets start to spill over. So some shit is showing up at work. I'm saying the wrong things to my daughter. I'm not able to receive the frustration from my partner or anything like that. And how do I reset that bucket? Well, I go with other men, and I share. I empty my bucket, and those men have the capacity to just hold me into this and say, hey, brother, you're emptying your bucket right now. That feels great. And that allows me to empty mine as well. And then I go out and, like, hey, I have capacity again to connect. And I'm sure you can already feel this in the call right now, just me speaking about this and me sharing my
Yes.
story. You can feel the space expanding, and you can feel the energy as well, inviting you to expand that capacity as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I'm very familiar with capacitance
awesome.
for myself. I haven't had it in the context of masculinity in men's circle before, but that makes total sense. Especially as a energy healer, and I know that working with other energy healers, the analogy I was given is like one of those little robot vacuums that go around the floor and they suck up all the dust and everything, but then we have a certain amount of capacity, right? And then we go back, plug in to not only charge, but to then dump all the dust, all the dirt, and everything. So, as a man, because one of the best analogies for masculinity is, like I said, container, and it definitely includes a bucket and other things, is a clamshell. It's a container that holds something. And because that's such a beautiful analogy, because I will say that is one of the things I took away from your circle when I was there, is that when I arrived and while people were settling down, before a word was spoken, I immediately felt this like weight lifted off my shoulders. Not like it was completely gone or free, but it was distributed amongst the shoulders of the brothers that were there at that time. Which in any other container that was like mixed, or especially mostly women and in a lot of other communities and circles, is that I had not felt that. But being in a container of only men, with the intention of men's works, men's group, whatever, it was such a relief and a burden lifted for just that time period of that container.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, it's just my guard was able to go down. Like I felt safe. Not like if someone busted into the room, we'd fight them, but I felt safe. It was something I can't remember a single time in my life that I felt like that. Or at least it's been way too long. So that's where it's very important. Because so going to what you were saying about how your partner is not it doesn't hold space for you, because there is a balance of definitely being vulnerable, but not dumping your stuff on her or on your partner, because that can be wearing. So when you go to these containers with other brothers, it's so much more freeing. It's so much more sanitary. It's like a quarantine. And so you're able to show back up to your relationship with your partner, with your family, whatever, so much more ready to receive them and everything that's mutually beneficial. You're able to handle it too. It's not draining on you. You're able to handle it and you want to, right?
Yeah, and if you dive deeper into the concept of sexual polarities from the data, it's like, hey, if I create these spaces with my partner, and I'm not saying men should not share what they have on their heart with their partner, it's very important to create those space. But like you said, am I setting the space to ask my woman for some time to hold the masculine pole? Am I setting a specific container, or am I the whole day, every time I have some frustration coming up, I'm dumping it on my partner? If I'm doing that, it's okay, but I cannot ask my partner to be the whole day, hold the masculine pole, and at night say, hey, dance for me, like be this woman that I would like you to be, so I can be the man now. You see
Yeah.
the ambiguity, because I'm training, like I'm providing energy in my relationship, and I'm showing more of my feminine energy, which is perfectly fine. But if you dive into the polarities, it's like, okay, the magnets are going to shift, and my woman's going to start animate more masculine energy. My core polarity is masculine. Well, at some point, if we both meet on the masculine, it's not going to be super fun.
Yeah.
And at least there's not going to be super powerful, attractive love and sexual attraction between each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then that's another piece, is like when and men always laugh when I say this, but I'm like, when I go really deep with the man and I'm feeling empowered and I'm feeling vulnerable and feeling supported and feeling strong as well. You said you feel safe, and for me, I feel strong as well after this container. Well, I'm ready to go back home and, I mean, really fuck my wife from the deepest core of my heart, and not from a place of neediness or anything like that, but really like fuck her with all my love and all my masculine energy. It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh, the fucking amen. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's raw. That's beautiful. Hell yeah. I don't have any more to add to that. That's perfect. That's on key. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's like, yeah, fucking from your heart. Love that. Let's go back to the initiation from like pubescent stage of our lives, and how you were saying you don't really think porn is that, which is not.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing me back to this. I am thankful that I'm not really the addictive type of person. I never grew up with those type of behavior, so I consider myself lucky with that. But like, oh man, I grew up and being a teenager and using porn, and not daily, but every time there was too much energy in my body, I would go in the shower and have a release to think, okay, that's going to be solving my problems. And my problems are usually solved during 20 seconds and then they come back even bigger, right? So 2 years ago, before I started that container, I was sitting with a bunch of men and they were talking about their addiction to porn. And that kind of questioned me. I was like, oh, is there such thing as porn addiction? And me just coming from Europe, and we don't speak too much about this in Europe. And you guys here in the US are, I would say, you voice way louder certain type of addiction, porn and alcoholism as well. Like, in France is like it's part of the culture to drink wine. And if you drink a bottle of wine every day, maybe it's fine because I'm French and it's good. I'm joking around, but I would say this, like hearing about another man saying, "Hey, I'm struggling with porn addiction right now," that kind of took me. I was like, "Oh, is there such thing as porn addiction?" So I just took a small challenge with myself, and I'm gonna share this with you and with the other
Mhm.
men who are listening. I was like, okay, every time I'm gonna starting today, every time I'm gonna feel like I want to use porn, I have to write down on a piece of paper why I need to use porn.
Mm.
I never use porn again because it was always like, hey, I need connection, I need physical touch, I need love. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm having a lot of emotion in my body right now. I have a lot of stress. And like every time I write that down, I was like, is porn gonna fix that problem that I just writing down on that piece of paper? Hell no. So I told to myself, if I'm able to find a good justification, well, yeah, I'm gonna go in the shower and have a good time. But I never did.
Mm.
I mean, I'm standing in front of you and I never came back to that. And, it even led to more beautiful sexual attraction with my partner because I was able to go back and say, hey, my love, like I realize right now I'm having a lot of emotion and can you hold me or can we do a hug, or can we create some space for intimacy tonight? Those kind of things that would have never showed up if I just
Mhm.
went to the bathroom and let the energy go.
Yeah.
Where I would say after a year and a half in like a year in that journey, I realized probably probably porn is one of the most powerful weapon against men and against men to have their full power.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but it's like, what if we provided a tool that is very addictive, free, that you can access everywhere, and that's gonna literally empty the energy of your body
It's like a
and
milking.
yes, and empty your masculine power so you can still walk on the lines. And I realized, man, this is a very powerful weapon because it doesn't look like a weapon. It is very attractive. And I mean, you are listening to that, and any man who's listening to that can resonate with that. No matter what is your story and what is my story with porn, porn is very powerful. It is very powerful at taking away men's power. I've never met a man who told me, hey, I'm regularly using porn and this is allowing me to be a better man or this is allowing me to be a more powerful man. Never. You tell me if you met a man like that.
I mean, I can tell you that for me, I had struggled and challenged with the addiction of it throughout my teenage years, early adulthood, majorly. But it, I could see where there is times where it does feel good. It does feel good to indulge because sometimes in my process of development that there was a lot of strict restriction of what to do, what not to do. So it was interesting, but there was definitely an excess that was unnecessary. And a lot of porn is considered a celebration of sexual liberation, which I feel it's like, is it though? Like, is it? I feel there's a lot of things in our society that disguise themselves as celebration or empowerment that is actually the opposite. And I feel porn might be one of those.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a beautiful and very powerful weapon in disguise.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same as you. I grew up as, okay, this is the liberation of the bodies. And my experience being in the US, and from a lens of a European as well, I feel like from the outside, I always thought the Americans are very free in their way of thinking around, being naked and sexuality and all this stuff just because of the movie culture and all this hypersexualization coming from America. And I thought, hey, that must mean like you guys are very comfortable in your body and you're very comfortable in the bedroom with your partner.
I thought the same thing about Europeans, by the way.
Yeah. Now I realize like, okay, it's probably not the case. So I can understand when you say it can be a celebration. I mean, I grew up, it's okay to be naked, and Germany has a very strong sauna culture where you always have to be naked, and I always felt really free in those space. So I don't think I viewed porn as a celebration, more as
Yeah.
a liberation. And I want to say this, like I did not say that, but I want to say I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm just saying when there is no real intention, there is a question,
Yeah.
right? And same for you. You say, okay, it has helped me. Sometimes it helped me. Well, for now, and maybe tomorrow there is another way, and that still includes a release and masturbation and self-pleasure because it's beautiful. And I mean, I'm not saying we should not do this because it's really powerful. And I'm just saying, and this is coming back to how it is a powerful weapon as well, as like with porn, we are giving away our power. And the same way I was just like browsing through one of your other podcasts, and you guys were talking about caffeine and how you can give away your power to a substance. Well, here the same, you give away your power to something else. And at the same time, I'm going to say I because I'm a big fan of the I statement. I trained my body to get hard very fast and to ejaculate very fast. And now what do? I train the opposite. I
Yeah.
have to retrain everything. So this is just like a recipe for disaster. And we're coming back to initiation. And I
Mm.
feel like right now I have a 5-year-old daughter, but if I had a boy, when he would come in contact to this or before that, I would like to speak more about sex. I would like to speak more about
Yes.
the masculine body and how you can pleasure yourself in a safe way and not giving away your power and
Never
how you
had
can,
that.
right. I mean, I was not even allowed to talk about condoms, so you know.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to be a very powerful shift here to go against the porn culture and to
Yeah.
really, but as well to go against this fear of, okay, the masculine body is dangerous and it's not okay to have an erection and it's not okay to self-pleasure yourself and all these stories that we are receiving as well from the outside. And this is just creating a space where, okay, I'm gonna hide, I'm gonna use something that is forbidden,
Mhm.
and there goes the
It's
cycle.
it's all unconscious. One side of the polarity is like shame, you're nothing sexual, nothing sacred. Push it down, don't talk about it, only discuss sex with your married partner or anything. Or the other side is like go all into it, jerk your brains out, and just lose all of your sacred energy.
Yeah,
And so it's all unconscious. And I think that's what you were saying about when you would write it down is like why you're doing it. Be more conscious about it. What do you really want and need?
yeah,
Because when we're boys growing into adulthood, that's the first thing we hear our friends at school talking about porn, talking about sex, talking about like all that stuff. That's the first time we hear about it. That's the first time I heard about it.
yeah,
You know, I mean, of course, like I grew up seeing movies, right? I would hear my parents talk about things. I could have gone to my parents. Like, it wouldn't have ashamed me or anything. It was mainly like my mom caught me with my brother's magazines or
yeah,
something, but I was never in trouble for it. So I wasn't shamed, but I wish there could have been more. I mean, my parents didn't have the knowledge or the capacity for this, God bless them, but I wish I knew the sacredness of that. Between the shame and the indulging, there's a responsibility and there's
yeah,
this sacred knowledge of that vital life force energy that is very intrinsic to your power
yeah,
and can be used otherwise in other ways that can be harnessed. And I think that's
yes,
part of that weapon. It's taking our power that we can harness to better things, right? Our sisters are very empowered and are empowering themselves right now. How amazing would it be if they had empowered brothers next to them? But that's systemically being washed away down the drain, as you were saying.
yeah,
And so it's a cruel yet efficient design. But that's
yeah.
where this men's work and education and knowledge comes in.
Listening to you, I understand there's probably something beyond that, and it's probably something that maybe does not have to come from the father, but has to come from the father who present a safe structure to
Hmm.
experience and to be trained. And you talking about your brother and your magazine, I'm sure you've experienced that, or you heard friends experiencing like, okay, you gather around with teenager and you watch a porn movie together and you jerk off, and there's nothing wrong about that. But there is, to me, there is something around, okay, we need to learn, like I need to learn with another man, or without having a sexual relationship, but
Yeah,
who is better than a man to teaching you how to deal with your body,
exactly.
right?
Just like you were saying with women, when they have their moons, they learn from their mothers or other women
Exactly,
about that. It
exactly.
would be so perfect on the other side of that.
Yeah,
I see that as the future, though. I see that is coming.
yeah. This is where, like you said, that this work is very important because for our son to be safe and to be trained by people who are fully compassionate, and there is no danger in those spaces, because you can understand how an adult in those kind of spaces with the wrong intention or just a tiny bit of wound can create a lot of damage as well.
Yeah.
This is where having safe masculinity and safe men who can create those type of container without going too far, but like you said, there must be something that we have to do differently that we are doing today. I don't know how it looks, and maybe we'll see that. Maybe some men that work with me, or maybe I'll create something one day.
I mean, we're
Yeah,
already doing it, though.
right.
That's part of the masculine initiative or energy is the seeding. We don't have to exactly know what we're seeding, but we have the intentions and we're showing up for it, planting the seed, and it grows from there. So just
Yeah,
by doing this work on ourselves first, like there is out initiation, and then spreading this information, this knowledge, like we're doing here, all the work that you do with brothers, that's that is so profound and has a massive ripple effect. I know that coming from the previous paradigm, it's so weird because, like you said, like we didn't really get this growing up into our manhood. If anything, the schools taught us. There's sex education in schools. We're letting government institutions teach people about themselves, the life force, the being that it is. And every time I've ever even heard about my brothers and my sisters that I know, like their sexual education experience in high school, it was always like women came in and talked about it. Because they're not going to allow, like, I mean, I've never heard at least, like, they're not going to allow a man to go into a high school to talk to teenagers about sex. They're not going to allow that. So it was always learning about myself from a woman through a very, like, scientific, like with good intention, but like this dispassionate lens that was like it takes the human element out of it. And what are we? What is this but human?
Yeah.
So very good. Like I love this. And you answered one of the questions because that wasn't one of my questions was going to be what would you want to tell your young self or what would you want to tell if you had a son or whatever. So this is in that.
Good stuff. Yeah. And I could speak for that on that for hours, so let's not make it
I know we
more.
got to move on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel what I wanted to share as well, which was important to me, is it's part of my story, is when I went to that first retreat, and it was an initiation retreat, and at the same time, it was a retreat to get the basic tools to organize a sharing circle for men, which I think it was very beautiful and beautiful intention to create this container as well, empower men to carry on this work outside of the container. This was really coming from a place of like, I want this world to be better for men. And I took this commitment with myself. Like when I left, I was feeling so open and so connected to my heart, and I had shared such a deep stuff. And I'm like, hey, like the silence of my lineage ends with me, like with men, for men. Because my father, I mean, he's been a super loving father, but he never really shared his emotion, and I don't blame him for that. From his father, I know was not really present, and I highly doubt he shared his emotion,
Yeah.
and again, and you can tell your story, but that was kind of my commitment. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna share who I am and I'm gonna share how I feel. And doing that, I'm gonna allow other men to be themselves and to be proud of being a man and feeling what they have to feel so they can show up as better men.
I love that.
Yeah.
So unlike many of my brothers, my father did express emotion.
Mm.
Not in a balanced way, but he did, which gave me permission to show, express, and even be emotional. Of course, my dad was very much from like his generation's like, be a man, suck it up, that thing. But at the same time, I do remember him crying in front of me and my brother. So I was able to have that. Now, again, like I said, it wasn't balanced. He would have outbursts and everything, but he never was someone who locked his emotions down. If anything, like I said, he was the opposite, but it did give me, I think it was a blessing though, because I know so many of my other brothers where their fathers did just completely lock it down and have this like stoic, mono, cold individual
Yeah.
for a father. And even if they like their fathers, and even their fathers, like my father was always there. My father was always there. His father was not.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather left my grandmother and my father and my uncle when they were very young. Yeah. So my father had to become the man of the house because he was the older of the brothers. He had to become a man of the house at a very young age. So there's a lot of things there. I'm not going to go into the whole thing that shaped his consciousness and then that got passed to me. My great grandfather, don't know much about him. I know that he was like hard working, like West Virginian that built railroads and like hard times, and that's as much as I know. And so my so I knew my grandfather, and he was very, like, I come from a family that's very enthusiastic, very out there, very energetic. So I am able to know to a degree, but still, like, so unlike a lot of our sisters who women tend to be more emotional. So whatever ancestral maternal baggage is expressed through their emotions. Rather than I feel for us as men, we don't know what's coming down the line because we carry our ancestors' trauma as well.
Yeah.
So the unfortunate thing that I feel for men, we don't know what's coming until we open up the hood and look and work on it. And it's terrifying. Like I have no idea what my grandfather dealt with, what my father dealt with until I finally pop it open in myself. I'm like, oh my God. Like it's completely blindsided until you deliberately go in there for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing this up, and I feel like the generational, like, sorry, my French is taking over right now. Generational trauma is like 100% true for men and for women. And it's funny that you're bringing that because around that same time that I had started this initiation, I went to my grandmother and I sat with her and I told her like, hey, grandma, I want to know everything. I said, I know there's so many secrets in that family and I want to know everything. And that was the beginning of a journey as well, because I, like you said, I can go down my heart and I can connect with my ancestor and I can heal generational trauma. But at the same time, my grandmother is still alive and I can actually ask questions and I can receive live answers instead of diving into the realms of spirit with there is nothing wrong with that. But if people are still alive, I encourage you and anyone else to talk, to ask questions. Because when they are gone, I mean, they're gone. Like you cannot ask questions anymore.
Yeah. And there's nothing better than getting it from the horse's mouth.
Right. Exactly.
So what we've talked about a lot of stuff so far. Forgive me, I'm still getting my bearings. I'm coming back.
No, I feel you. No problem.
When you're in the sauce, like you're in the sauce, and then when you get taken out, it's kind of hard to come
Yes.
back.
So take a moment. We all gonna take a moment to connect to me because I haven't left the space and I'm still very connected to the space. So I invite you to connect to my energy the same way I was telling you before. You're feeling the expansion of the space as we're diving deeper and we're both opening our heart. Just tune in back into the space that we have just expanded more and more. You can feel again, can feel it holding us right now. Yeah. Yeah, this we're touching like a subject that is very important to me as well. Like we at the beginning I was talking about how it is important for me to look the way I want to look and to show up the way I want to show up and for the space to be ready the way I want it to be, for spirit to come into the space and my spirit helper to come into the space to secure that and cultivating that deep presence. When you have those intrusion outside, it's like, how can I witness that act and at the same time still really feel deeply into the space and not leave the space, which is a very challenging exercise, but it's a practice.
It's definitely something that I am focusing on and intending to master myself because for
Yeah.
me, I feel it's a very masculine energy is focus.
Mm.
is to be present
Yeah.
and not being so rigid. Like I want the flexibility to adapt. Like if something happens or whatever, to be able to actively shift my focus. But when I can just come back, it's like a warrior's steadfast
Yeah.
kind of energy and focus and attention too, which for me, I have challenged with attention much of my life because for me, my attention has been all over the place and as a child especially growing up. And I mean, if we're going to talk about things like porn and the times, is that I will say growing up in America and just with all the stimulations of like toys, cartoons, all the
Mhm.
things like sugary treats
Right.
and drinks and just all of the things that are super attention grabbing. And don't get me wrong, to this day, I still love a lot of those things, but it's like, fuck, my attention span didn't have a goddamn chance. And for me, they diagnosed me with ADHD, which I feel is perhaps, I just wonder, like, was I born with that or was it just more of my situation of life? And I remember my brother did a report in early high school where, because I was diagnosed with ADHD, I would take a lot of medicine throughout my life that was designated for that. And he was upset with that. And
Right.
so he did a report with like, just give him a pill for this. Whereas there never were children born into a time where there was all this stuff to zap and take your attention. And growing up in the 90s was a very saturated time for a child.
Don't you think it's
Uh,
worse today?
Absolutely. I think it's,
Mhm.
yes. I mean, especially with the digital too. Of course, we had like TV and video games, but it was nothing compared to, I mean, it was child's play compared to what it is now. Like what it is now,
Yes.
it's like that, those are other things. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now,
No.
but it's like if there's any question to even anything like porn, these things are, you get, these are deliberately designed to keep your attention or destroy your attention.
Take your soul away from you, basically. If you ask me, Matt, I'd love to maybe just share about the concept of a retreat as I'm organizing another retreat end of April. Like you mentioned something very important. You said if you were to tell yourself something in the past. And when I ran my first retreat in November last year, I talked to the mans the same way I would talk to myself before jumping into that first container. Is I remember I was scared. I remember I didn't want to go, and I expressed before like I had massive resistance. And why would I go in nature with men for 4 days to do what? To do breath work, to share about my feeling, to do Kundalini. Why would I do such a thing? I don't do these things outside, so why would I go with a bunch of strangers and do this work? And honestly, the answer is to find yourself. The answer is to find yourself, and that can be fucking scary.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing David Data as well again because I really love his work. And he said a man is growing when he's at his edge.
Hmm.
And the intention of those retreats is just to bring practices to bring you at your edge. But being brought at your edge in the same container like you shared before, with other men being brought at their edge, is just like multiplying the healing, multiplying the growth. And it's not because of the container that I did, like it's container where I was participant as well. Like I've seen men completely shifting, and I'm part of these men as well. Not taking any medicine, not taking anything like that, just like going and doing the practices and saying, fuck, for 4 days, I'm gonna do practices and I'm gonna focus on myself and on my heart. And there is a shift that happens that when you leave, you cannot forget this.
Hmm.
You can go back to your life, you can do your own thing and everything goes back, but there is this deep inner wisdom inside yourself that never leaves. And then, it's up to you how you work to integrate this into your life. And if you're committed and if you want to bring more of this into your life and do more practices and do more regular work, then you see more growth. But I really like to compare that with psychedelic journey because I feel like it's very trendy and ayahuasca or mushrooms are very easy or a very easy way to really dive into this type of work. But it's the same way. Like if you drink a cup of ayahuasca in Peru and you have a super powerful experience, whether you define it as good or bad, it stays with you forever. Well, those practices and practicing with men without taking any medicine stays with you forever. And you carry that and you carry this when you meet another man. You carry this when you meet another boy. There's something that shifted in you. And this is really powerful. And this is the beginning, and there's no freaking turning back.
Oh, we're past the point of no return
Yes.
in humanity. I want your thoughts on this too. Is Mother Earth, the human species, is done playing small? Like we've been doing stuff for far too long. The time of the bullshit's over. Feel an initiative for men collectively, and it's time for us to wake up. And second question is, you can answer, however, is when you said one of the things that will stay with you is, do you think that whatever happens in these retreats, in these containers, you always have that thing with you? Do you think that's also because it's not necessarily something that the man gained, but more of an unveiling of who he was all along?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the latter. At least the way I work is I bring practices to clear layers so you can feel more into who you are truly, and you can let emerge things that needs to emerge. So you can walk out a free man or with a bit more freedom in your heart and with a bit more freedom of being yourself. So yeah, I mean, you're spot on. It's not about the practices, it's not about the other man. It's about your experience, the same way you were talking about that sharing circle and leaving this very powerful memory into yourself and in your body. It's just your experience. It has nothing to do about me, nothing to do about the other man. It's just you leaning into this and saying like, hey, I'm in a space that I don't know anybody and I'm gonna take courage right now. I'm gonna lean in. I'm gonna go, and this is gonna be my edge. And this is where you get growth. And I feel this is where, as a facilitator, it can be very dangerous to. I was talking about ego before, but it can be very dangerous, and you can easily get lost into, oh, those men are healing, and this is thanks to me.
Yeah.
And when you start to go down that path, then there's something darker that is coming up. No, it's not about me. It's not about the space. It's just about the collective experience and the safety and just about yourself, basically. And like you said, the rest, the safety, the trust, you cannot surrender if you do not feel safe. You cannot fully open up if you do not feel safe. And I'm glad you felt that sense of safety because this is giving you the guarantee that you're going to do some potent men's work, basically. Yeah.
I didn't have any expectations. And I
Yeah.
think that was a beautiful thing because I just wanted to learn. I wasn't going in there either to be like, I'm going to heal this or I'm going to like do like I was just like I want to see because I was already getting interested in men's work and our brother was like, "Hey, why don't you go?" Because I was visiting. I'm not
Yeah.
from the same area, but I was visiting. He's like, "Hey, how would you go to my brother's group tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, that'd be cool. I do want to see what happens." And it was a string of opportunities that led me to that, and I was like, "Wow, this is awesome." So it's perfect.
Hmm.
If you do want to talk more about your retreat, I welcome you to shamelessly sell.
I'll definitely share more and I'll definitely share the link. I can tell you some of the men, they did some very deep transformation and they were coming from way further than you and I are coming. And they have amazed me to the point where, I mean, they are now creating their own group and they are
Mm.
practicing together every single day. They are meeting at 6 a.m. to do Kundalini yoga and they are like at their day 70. And I haven't asked them anything.
Mm.
So I'm gonna quote the guy who hold the space where I'm running the retreat. He said, "Every man from that container came out as a better man as they came in."
Mm.
That's what he said. So it's just a commitment to take with yourself and leaning into the resistance as well, because if you feel resistance the same way I was sharing before, and this means there's growth over there. I'm
Mhm.
sure you can relate in your story, in your life, you felt other resistance. And once you break through those resistance, man, the freedom, man, the growth. Like I'm sharing that with the men as well. I've never heard any man saying, "Oh, I had such a beautiful release on my couch like last night watching a TV show," right? Or eating a nice bucket of ice cream. For real, like nothing against that, but it's a good question. I feel like the message for men, I pretty much shared my message the whole podcast, but my message is if you have never done any kind of initiation, and even if you don't know what initiation means, you know when I ask that question whether the answer is a yes or no. I highly recommend for yourself and your soul and you finding yourself, or at least starting the journey to go down that path of initiation. Wherever, if it's with me or with some other really powerful men that I quoted before in the episode, go there. It is safe and it's beautiful exploration. And there's no turning back in a beautiful way. Once you start looking at yourself, it's just beauty and challenges, but beautiful challenges, because then you start to have the awareness of what you have to work on. And when you have the awareness, or when I feel I have the awareness, is much easier than, like you said, being blind spotted and like having your trauma playing like a puppet with you, basically. Yeah. And I would say the message for the sister is, I would say trust. I'll say trust that there are men out there who are doing the work. There are men out there who are really, I mean, most of the men are beautiful and good men. It's just wounded men. And unfortunately, we usually wound the feminine from a place of our own wounding. So I'm saying trust, and trust that there is a greater power, and trust that there's a very powerful beauty in men. And I'm sure you have experience in your life, or you would love to experience in the life, to be in a company of a safe and powerful man, where you can rest in his arm and just feel supported to feel anything you want to feel and to be yourself. I think this safety is very important. Yeah, and I mean, I mean, I want to say as well, I love women, like we love you, and the worst thing have been done from women, like I said, from a to women from a place of wounding. But those men are, from the core, they are not bad men. It's just wounded men. So trust and hope. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that, brother.
yeah.
So, Brice, you lead a men's retreat now, as you mentioned, and it started
Yeah.
last year, right?
So there was a retreat, 4 days retreat, 1 hour north from Tampa in Florida in November. And now I'm running a second retreat in the last weekend of April, same space, beautiful and powerful space, completely in nature. You're surrounded by wild Florida nature. You get bitten by a mosquito. It's warm. You have a beautiful field with water buffalo running around. You can camp in nature, and we do practices early in the morning across the whole day and during the evening. And you get fed very good food by a local Brazilian cook. She comes and delivers some very good food, and you're basically going through those practices and going through those challenges for to discover yourself more and to dive deeper into yourself. At the same time, you're connecting at such a deep level with some other men that you have never met before. And I can tell you from my own experience, you probably had never related with other men like you would in those type of container. And it's super beautiful to experience this connection. Gives hope for this life and the future. And the rest is very well organized and catered so you can rest correctly, get good food, and then do the work. Yeah. And what does do the work mean is, like I was saying, like it can be meditation, it can be some practices to share the deepest, darkest side of yourself, some challenging physical Kundalini practice to raise the energy in your body and to bring you more into the space physically and emotionally, and as well some release practices just to feel held by your brother and to release whatever is in your body that does not need to stay in your body anymore. So all those type of practices are part of the retreat. And I'm gonna say this as well, like, and this is important for me. I started this work from a place of love and from a place that I need this for myself. And outside of that, I have a very nice and fulfilling weekly job, which I really enjoy, and I lead engineers, so I lead men in another type of container. But this is providing me the income to allow me to do all the rest, to provide for my family and to allow me to give full passion and love into those containers. So I invite you to come on my website and you're going to see the prices are really approachable. It's not those type of retreats where you have to commit to thousands of dollars, which is, I mean, it's another edge. I'm not gonna lie. To me, it was an edge, and going beyond that edge is powerful as well. Just a financial edge. But at the same time, like, I don't want this to be a problem. So I'm inviting you to come to my website and connect, leaning into the resistance. If you feel like, fuck no, I'm not gonna do this, then I'm gonna say, do it. Definitely do it.
I love that because there's so many times where I feel like a fuck yes, but that fuck no.
Yeah.
There's something I know I do when I feel a resistance to something and I go, oh, that's bullshit. So I lean into it and do it anyway because I don't like that fear or whatever. Just I don't like that really in my life.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing.
Of course. And I'm gonna say this as well. It's like there is something, if you feel that resistance, that means there is something for you out there, but that also means you have to bring something to the others as well. Like I'm bringing my own medicine, but what you're bringing, Matt, into this container, into other container, is your own medicine. It's your own story. And thanks to your story, other men can heal. Other men can learn. If I'm gonna show up by myself over there, just you and I, we're gonna get some healing. But if we are 15 men, we're gonna get such another level. Like this, again, I'm coming back. It's not about myself. It's about the container. It's about the men. It's about what you are bringing into the space. Your experience in this life and your healing power. And you have a gift for the others, and I have gift for the others as well.
Yeah. It's about our unique cocktail
Yes,
of what we all have to give, provide for
true.
each other.
Yeah.
I feel that's a huge thing that is lacking in masculinity is that we're not taught that we're sacred, or we're not taught that we have something to provide
Yeah.
that's unique. Like, there's a lot about women's sacredness, which is very true. But men, like you, have a unique part in your life, in your community, in your family, yet that is in many ways yet to be tapped.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is very true about the providing piece, like the can't remember I'm very bad at English names, but my wife read that book, which is very powerful and helped our relationship, which is called The Queen's Code. And the woman who wrote that book, she said, basically, you have the rules of the 3P for men. So provide, procreate, and protect. And as long as a man is empowered to do those three things, it's good. So in your example, we are here to provide as well.
And there's that uniqueness to what you provide
Yes.
in that, just even in your presence and showing up to a thing like this
Yes.
group, you have no idea what and it's alchemical too. It's scientific. You have no idea what your chemical reaction is going to another chemical. And with the intentions of these containers, it's going to be powerful and positive overall.
Yeah, I grew up, maybe I'm not that special, but hey, we are all special and we all have something to bring in this life, whether you are famous or not, and whether you're trained or not, and whether you're rich or not, and whether you're beautiful or not. Like, who fucking cares? Like, bring yourself. The worst thing you can do is not showing up fully yourself, because that sets the tone for the other men not to show themselves fully. And this is where any man shines. Like, we
Absolutely.
shine. So,
And that's been the previous paradigm, is not showing up
yeah.
and allowing others to not show up. So this is where that changes. And there's plenty of room for all the shiny men.
Yes. Definitely.
Thank you so much, brother.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how much this entire conversation resonated so much with me, with my heart. Thank you so much for being here today, sharing your wisdom, your energy, everything. And I also want to thank you. And I know you say, like, it's not about you. It's about your service. I want to say, though, thank you for providing it, though. Because I know that if you did not host that, at least from my experience, if you did not host that men's group that one night, it seeded so much in my consciousness. And I know that if you hadn't, you're doing amazing work.
Thank you, bro.
So I just want to thank you for all the work you do for yourself and for all of our brothers. Thank you.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you, brother.
And thank you all for being here. This is Brice. MC War of the Light out. If this episode and series resonates with you, and you're interested in delving more into men's work, I will be creating an online men's group program coming up here very soon. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me via email that I'll flash here on the screen now and link below. I would love to talk to you if you had any questions, meet you, and learn more about you and what you would like from your healing experience and journey as a man who is awakening to his fullest and greatest potential. And to connect with other brothers who are like-hearted. And if you would like to work one-on-one with me, I offer distance energy healing sessions over Zoom, and you can reach out to me via email to inquire about those as well. And for all my other content, you can check out here on YouTube. For my other podcasts interviewing other healers and their gifts and medicine that they could offer you, to series about what I envision and I feel New Earth and the new world could be like.
through a few short stories and chapters, to discussing with other spiritual and New Thought leaders about what is going on and how we can address, see, and live our best lives here and now. Thank you so much. Have a great day.